Hello fellow seekers, welcome back to my channel. This is Amanda Artemis the Forester, Rune Reader Diviner, and Polytheist Mystic. Well, we are 2 days away from going into 2020. That's the end of a decade and the start of a new one. That's something, isn't it? And we're going to be having that Capricorn stellium in January. Jupiter has moved into Capricorn. We're building big things. If you didn't know anything about numerology, 2020 reduces to 4, which is the number of stability. So this is, again, stability, Capricorn, building stability. That's focused on the physical, on our status, our place in the world. This is going to be an interesting year, I think. But what I actually wanted to talk about was New Year's itself. New Year's Day specifically, and about Janus and the god Janus, who January is named for. As I said, I mentioned him briefly in my last video on winter solstice traditions, and as I said then, I wanted to start doing videos based on my own festival calendar. To start explaining some of what I do, because there's a lot of information on YouTube about Wiccan holidays, and as much as I love some of those, particularly Imbolc and Beltane, there's not as much about different polytheist traditions. So I am actually going to just share a little bit about what I do. This is not going to be a very long video. I have already shared this book, but I'm going to show it again. A lot of information in this book about classical living. Again, Janus, the two-headed god of doorways and thresholds, of beginnings, endings. Picture him right there. And as it says here, January is the month to begin. So, one of the things that the Romans would do on January 1st was to do a symbolic beginning of every kind of work that they would do for the rest of the year. Farmers were actually not supposed to work the fields until mid-January, but they would go out and just like till a tiny plot of soil, maybe plant one seed as a symbolic beginning, blessing on that year. So you might bake a loaf of bread. If you're a writer, you might start writing something. Doesn't even have to be good. Write a sentence. If you're a writer, write a sentence. If you're an artist, do a little bit of work on some art. It does not have to be finished. That's actually the whole point, is to do a symbolic beginning of all the work that you would want to do within the coming year. And I've actually talked a little bit in one of my, I think it was the Impasse Self-Care video, I can't remember which one, about anointing the threshold. Now, that's actually something that I do on the first of the year. So if I feel called to, or if I think there's my household might be in danger or under threat of some kind, I might do it again at another point in the year if I feel like the household needs a extra blessing. But in general, that's something that I do on the first of the year. I make my offerings to Janus, okay, we tend to think of we don't really think of the outside world and the inside world of the home as being separate. We tend to think of it all as one big thing, unless you're an extreme introvert, in which case you probably do see your home as a sanctuary. But the Romans and the Greeks too also had this idea that the home, not just the building itself, but your homestead or whatever your property was like this safe little oasis sanctuary against the outside world. It was this calm little center of order. Ideally, that's what your home should be, right? Calm, centering, ordered. But when you cross over the threshold, you're going out into the chaotic world out there, and things can be dangerous out there. You can get hit by a car or run over by an ox cart, whatever their version of a car was, right? You can be assaulted by robbers on the road. Whatever it was, going out into the world was dangerous and home was safe. So going over the threshold was highly ritualized. In fact, that's actually why grooms carry their brides over the threshold when they marry them. The whole reason for that is in the old days, that was the first time the bride was coming into the house. These days, the couple might live together for a while first. But in the old days, that was the first time the bride would come into the house. And if she tripped, that would be considered a bad omen on the marriage and an offense to the house spirit. So the groom would actually carry her over the threshold to prevent that bad omen from happening. So people still do that today, and they don't know where those traditions come from. So I kind of like to point out where those traditions have survived, because I think it's really fascinating that they've survived, even though we don't really have the meaning of them anymore. We think, oh, it's so romantic, he's carrying her, he's so strong, look how sweet that is. And it is that. But it's actually based in animism and in not wanting to offend the house spirits and not wanting to offend Janus as you introduce this new person to your household. So that's kind of cool. Side note. But the thresholds are symbolic of beginnings. Besides this clearly defined boundary between the inside and the outside world, the public and private world, this is the ending of 1 year, a decade in this case for us, and the beginning of another year, decade. And 2020, perfect vision in the medical field. I don't know how they chose those numbers, but you know, us spiritual people don't think anything happens by accident. So let's try to manifest some perfect vision for our future that we're trying to build some stability for. So that sounds pretty fascinating, right? All right, so this would be a day that you might want to bless and decorate your door or your threshold. When I moved into my house, I actually painted my door purple because in old folklore, European folklore, I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but it's definitely not Roman. A purple door means a witch lives here. So my front door is purple, and I have some protection runes on the inside painted for good luck and happiness and all that. So this, if you have never thought about it before, the first of the year would be a good day to think about decorating your front door. Whether or not you want to actually say a prayer to Janus or not, although I would recommend it because his favor is a good blessing on any beginnings of anything. There's an interesting quote in here that I wanted to read. This comes directly from Ovid. Now must good words be spoken on a good day. Let ears be rid of lawsuits. Oh, I just flipped too many pages. I'm sorry. Let ears be rid of lawsuits and banish mad disputes straight away. See how the sty sparkles with fragrant fires and how saffron from Sicily cackles on the kindred heart. So another thing is, don't start any fights on January 1st. Try to remember January 1st is when you is setting the tone for the whole year. So if you have anything that you need to discuss with somebody that might cause a little contention, you might want to get that out of the way now. I know I'm posting this only 2 days before, but either get it out of the way now or just wait a few days. If it's gonna cause a dispute with a partner or a sibling or a parent, just don't do it on January 1st, because then you'll be setting yourself up for a year full of arguments and disputes. Because words have weight, and the ears of the deities are open at this time. So you want to be very careful about how you begin things, because that sets the tone. So we still do New Year's resolutions. I mean, that's a lot of people have dropped off by late February or March. But we still make resolutions for what we want to change in the following year. But this is kind of an interesting take on that, is instead of saying, well, I'm going to change this, you make the entire day, New Year's Day, about how you want the rest of the year to be. So if you want to exercise more, get up and do a little exercising. Now, if you want to run a whole marathon, don't try to run a whole marathon. Just run around the block. You know, just whatever. Excuse me. So in keeping with the theme about boundaries, the Romans also had a festival for the spirits of the neighborhood on January 3rd through 5th. If you know your neighbors, which a lot of us are pretty disconnected from our neighbors, this would be a good day to just say hi. If you don't know them, reach out. Just try to reach out to get to know them. It was an actual big day where it celebrated the spirits of the crossroads in the neighborhood, but they would also have a feast, you know. And again, this is something that's kind of important. We are in a pretty disconnected time, which is kind of funny considering how connected we are with social media. We're actually pretty disconnected in daily life. So I would say use this as a time to reach out to your neighbors. Now, my neighbors don't know I'm pagan. I have all these little symbols and things out here, so I mean, it's kind of obvious to people who are in the know, but I mean, I don't go around blasting it, obviously. So it's not like I would say, hey, this is in celebration of the pagan holiday, but you know what it's for. You know what it's for when you reach out to them. Give some leftover cookies to the elderly lady next door, you know, something like that. Reach out in the spirit of neighborliness. So that would be another thing that you could do. Now, in the first few weeks, they also would celebrate Aesculapius and Salus. Aesculapius is one of the healing gods, the son of Apollo. Salus is the Roman name for Hygiena. You might notice that the word hygiene comes from her name. That was Aesculapius' daughter, as the goddess of health. So this is a prayer card, and I'll include the link to the prayer card from Word Curiosities for Aesculapius. And I don't know if I've said this before, but pretty much every single god that I've ever had a close relationship to has a snake aspect. Even Odin, who his most well-known animal companions are the wolf and the raven. Turns out he's got a lesser-known snake aspect too, Bulwark. I'll do a whole nother video on that at some point, but it's kind of interesting because snake is my personal totem and just keeps popping up everywhere. But the snakes have to do with healing, and I'll probably end up doing videos on animal totems too. But there's so much I want to do with this channel. But at this point, I think I'm mostly going to focus on the pagan and festivals that you don't see very much. So this is the son of Apollo, and he was the son of Apollo and a mortal woman, and he eventually died. I'm not going to tell the whole myth because, like I said, I don't want this to be a super long video. He eventually died and was brought back to life, but he was also able to heal the sick and raise the dead. Part of why he died actually was because of raising the dead and violating the natural order as a mortal. And when Apollo and Athena petitioned Zeus to bring him back as a god, there was no longer any impropriety in him raising the dead. You might notice there's some Jesus imagery there. You know, that the whole son of a mortal woman and an immortal God who can raise the dead and heal the sick is not a unique thing to Christianity. But he's mostly known for physical healing, but also dream incubation. So this would be when sick people would go to his temple and they would sleep in the temple, and they would be given their cure or a message in their dreams. So within these next few weeks, you might want to pay close attention to your dreams, especially if you work closely with healing gods or with snakes or with Aesculapius or Hygiena in particular. So that's basically all I have to say. Not a whole lot, but I just wanted to be able to share something and basically just give you a little bit of a preview of the type of stuff that I'm going to be doing. Hopefully some of these videos will be a little longer, and some of it might include, I might include some of my own prayers at some point that I've written myself, as I don't really want to read other people's prayers or poetry, because I don't really have ownership of that, and I'm not sure about how, I don't want to like steal someone else's stuff. Like, these prayer cards have prayers in the back of them, and they're really beautiful, but I don't want to share that because the creator of these cards specifically only shares the art and not the side with the prayers, because they're only $4 a piece and he's got to make a living. So that's it for today. Like, subscribe, share. I hope this was informative. Give me a comment. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd be interested in seeing. I am wearing amber. This was given to me by for Yule by my friend Erin Easton, who runs Silver Phoenix Jewelry. She made me this as a gift. I've been wanting a string of amber for a long time. This is called Spark of the Sun, and also the Tears of Freya is another word for, it's another name for amber in Norse cosmology. I've been wanting a string for a long time, and so my friend who runs Silver Phoenix Jewelry made me this amber necklace, which says perfect for Yule, rebirth of the sun. So I'll put a link to her Facebook for anyone who's looking for jewelry. I know we're past Christmas here, but you know, Valentine's Day is coming up, so I will put a link to her Facebook in the description for the video as well. And please like the video, subscribe, and have a happy new year. And I hope everyone has a wonderful decade, because I just have a great feeling, honestly. Personally, it's been a rough decade. Last couple of years have gotten better, but on a whole, it's not been a good decade. But I kind of feel like it's also been setting up the trials and tribulations that myself and others have gone through. I feel like they've been setting up something great, and I can kind of feel this big energy shift that a lot of astrologers are talking about. So I hope that everybody goes forward with a clean slate and thinks about what they want to build in the coming years. My voice just kind of cracked because that's a little bit scary, but we're building, we're working on it. Everybody think about that. Happy New Year! Skull!